Welcome to Storyline Streams, where stories come alive across time and imagination. Subscribe to journey with us. The Threshold Protocol, Chapters 1 through 5.
Chapter 1. Return to Earth. The spaceship's engines emitted a faint, mechanical purr as the craft settled gracefully in the Walmart parking lot's farthest corner. Its sleek, futuristic design shimmered under the dull glow of sodium vapor lights, the darkness gradually giving way to dawn. Stealth tech might have shielded it from radar, but nothing could hide its extraterrestrial elegance from the curious gazes of early morning shoppers. Inside, Elias Kane reclined in the pilot's chair, watching the surroundings through the neural implant, linking his mind directly to the ship. A weary sigh escaped his lips, weighted by the years that had passed since he'd last been here, since he'd last been human. The Akashic record had changed everything. Accessing the mythical repository of universal knowledge had opened a floodgate of forbidden truths, leaving Elias with the blueprints for humanity's wildest dreams: faster-than-light travel, limitless resources, and sentient machines. Elias vividly remembered the moment it all began. A sleepless night in his parents' cluttered old barn-turned workshop, hunched over a jury-rigged radio telescope, cobbled together from salvaged satellite dishes and outdated military equipment. It was there, under the newly installed LED lights and surrounded by scraps of wires and circuit boards, that he first intercepted the anomalous transmission. The signal had arrived as a faint pulse, hidden amidst static and cosmic background noise. Initially dismissing it as interference, Elias's curiosity had kept him decoding the strange frequency until dawn. By sunrise, and utilizing all of his knowledge from his time in the Air Force's cyber and intelligence, he had unraveled enough of its encrypted code to realize he'd stumbled upon an extraterrestrial message, a set of coordinates and detailed instructions on how to build a spacecraft capable of reaching said coordinates. Driven by a relentless curiosity, Elias dedicated the next several months of his life to constructing a spacecraft capable of following those cryptic coordinates. Utilizing every scrap of knowledge he'd painstakingly gleaned from the transmission, he launched himself on an unprecedented journey into the unknown. The destination was a derelict alien spacecraft, drifting silently near Jupiter, battered by centuries in the vacuum of space, yet brimming with invaluable data. It was aboard this ancient craft that Elias found the final clue: the exact location of the hidden Akashic record node, waiting in obscurity far beyond current human reach. But that discovery came at a heavy price. Weeks turned into months, and then years, as Elias became increasingly absorbed in his mission. At first, Elias could still intercept bursts of radio transmissions and fragments of internet chatter from Earth, news broadcasts, music, even the occasional voice message. But as the distance grew, the signals weakened, fading into static until silence claimed them entirely. Family, friends, and the simple joys of ordinary life drifted away like fading echoes, overshadowed by the irresistible allure of unlocking universal secrets. The pull of the cosmos had proven irresistible. Elias had departed without goodbyes, drawn away from Earth's mundane struggles toward the infinite freedom awaiting him among the stars. He mined asteroids for precious elements humanity had barely begun to understand, debated philosophy with artificial intelligences born from his own imagination, and ventured to the fringes of the Milky Way. Each discovery fueled his curiosity, pushing him deeper into the cosmos, forever changing his understanding of existence itself. But even pioneers needed their rituals, and Elias, the man who had unlocked the secrets of the universe, had come home for something greater than fuel, fame, or fortune. He was here for a Red Bull. The irony wasn't lost on him. Elias chuckled to himself as he grabbed his cloak, an advanced piece of stealthware woven with optical camouflage threads that made the eye slide off when trying to focus on it, and swept it over his massive frame, concealing both his identity and his imposing build. The airlock hissed open, and he stepped onto the asphalt. The early morning sun, already imposing, promised another July scorcher in northeast Texas. He squinted, taking in the sight of the Walmart Supercenter. It looked almost exactly as he remembered, down to the faded logo and the chaotic shuffle of shoppers pushing overloaded carts. As Elias walked toward the Walmart entrance, he caught fragments of everyday conversation. A couple discussing weekend plans, someone complaining about high gas prices, a mother gently scolding her child. It was all so ordinary. Yet, after years spent navigating asteroid fields and assembling robotic armadas guided by blueprints stored within his augmented mind, these mundane snippets felt strangely comforting and profoundly distant. The automatic doors whooshed open, and the cool blast of air conditioning hit him like a wave. For a moment, he just stood there, taking it all in. The fluorescent lights, the endless aisles of products, the elderly greeter. It was overwhelming in its mundanity. Elias made his way directly to the refrigerated drinks aisle, his footsteps echoing softly against the polished tile floor. He scanned the colorful array of beverages until he spotted what he sought, a sleek silver can emblazoned with familiar blue accents, promising wings he hadn't tasted in years. Without hesitation, he grabbed the can, cracked it open right there in the aisle, and took a long, blissful sip. The crisp, carbonated rush was exactly as he remembered, invigorating, oddly comforting, and profoundly nostalgic. A satisfied sigh escaped his lips, drawing curious glances from nearby shoppers. Hey, buddy," a Walmart employee called out, his voice faltering as he cautiously approached. He squinted, then blinked rapidly, clearly unnerved by the way Elias's cloak seemed to shimmer and blur, refusing to let his eyes settle. You gotta pay for that first," he stammered, his steps slowing as confusion and unease crept across his face. Elias turned, flashing an apologetic smile. "Sorry, I've been away. Forgot the rules." The employee's skeptical frown deepened. Elias reached into his jacket and withdrew a handful of metallic crystals, shimmering faintly under the fluorescent lights, their deep violet hues flecked with luminescent streaks. "Will this cover it?" he asked casually. The employee stared blankly at the crystalline shards. What? What is that?" "Beryllium crystals," Elias replied matter-of-factly. "Considerably more valuable than your currency. Keep the change." The employee's eyes widened in confusion, but before he could respond, Elias was already strolling toward the exit, savoring another long sip of his Red Bull. A faint pang of regret for being so cavalier flickered inside him. He realized Earth's economy didn't exactly run on unknown minerals. He made a mental note to handle these interactions more smoothly next time. As he stepped outside, a small crowd had gathered around his ship, phones raised, snapping pictures and recording videos. He sighed. So much for stealth. Elias tossed the empty can into a nearby recycling bin and approached the ship. With a wave of his hand, the hatch opened.
"Did you acquire the energy
revealing
supplement,
the dimly
Commander?"
lit interior. Asked Archimedes. Climbed inside, his advanced AI ceiling shut behind him. "I did, Archimedes," greeted him, Elias replied, smooth and melodic, settling back into the pilot's seat. It was everything I dreamed of and more.
Shall we return to the Wanderer?
The Wanderer was the name he had given to the derelict spaceship that had sent the message that had started him on his journey. Given the distance to the Akashic record node, he had had no choice but to repurpose the ship. Elias glanced at the growing crowd outside and smiled. A flicker of homesickness he had stifled for so long stirred in his chest. Not just yet. Let's take the scenic road. It's been a while since I've seen home. The ship's engines roared to life, and as it lifted off, Elias couldn't help but wonder if his brief pit stop on Earth had set something into motion. After all, the secrets he carried weren't meant to stay hidden forever. Chapter 2. A familiar horizon. Elias's craft, known as Dropship 7, glided just above the treetops, its metallic sheen reflecting the rays of the noonday sun. The town below buzzed with activity as police cruisers scrambled to follow, their lights flashing and sirens wailing. Officers shouted orders into their radios, their voices tinged with panic and confusion.
We've got a UFO heading west, low altitude, requesting backup.
Behind the police convoy, a growing crowd of civilians in cars, trucks, and on foot joined the pursuit, their phones pointed skyward. Social media was ablaze with posts and live streams, the hashtags spaceship and alien invasion trending within minutes. Inside the ship, Elias shook his head, amused. "They're like moths to a flame," he muttered.
Commander, shall I activate defensive protocols?
Archimedes asked. "Not yet. Let's not escalate things unless we have to, but prepare the security bots." As the ship neared the edge of town, a sprawling ranch came into view, its fields bordered by wooden fences and dotted with grazing cattle. Elias smiled. Home. The ranch looked nearly identical to his last memory of it. Time-worn fencing, the two-story farmhouse with peeling paint, and the old barn that had sheltered generations of horses and cattle. He let out a slow breath, nerves fluttering in his stomach. In all the places he'd seen across the stars, nowhere held the weight of memory like this. The ship hovered silently over the ranch for a moment, before releasing dozens of sleek, spider-like security bots. They descended gracefully, arranging themselves into a precise formation around the property. Moments later, beams of energy interlinked between the bots, weaving rapidly into a shimmering, translucent force field dome, completely enclosing the area in a protective barrier. Each bot's sensors flared to life, scanning meticulously for any approaching threats. When unauthorized personnel ventured too close, the bots had the ability to deploy advanced neural disruption weapons. These sophisticated emitters sent finely tuned signals directly into an intruder's nervous system, instantly overwhelming the neural pathways. The human brain, forced into self-preservation, rapidly shut down motor control signals, causing the intruder's body to collapse harmlessly into temporary paralysis, rendered immobile until their brain could safely restore functionality. Probably not the best way to respond to curious civilians who venture to close, so for the meantime, the force field would be enough of a deterrent. Elias landed the ship in an open field near the new barn, which was actually 17 years old. Deactivating his cloak, he stepped out, the familiar scent of earth and hay filling his nostrils. Memories of childhood chores, feeding the cattle, mending fences, riding horses, flooded his mind. He had been so eager to leave this place behind to explore the galaxy, and now he felt a pang of guilt for ever dismissing it as too ordinary. His parents emerged from the house, their expressions a mixture of shock and joy. Jacob and Abigail Kane were the very image of hard-working ranchers, their faces weathered and sun-kissed from years spent tending cattle and repairing fences beneath relentless skies. Jacob's sturdy frame, broad shoulders, and calloused hands spoke of a life shaped by labor, while Abigail's sharp eyes, silver-streaked hair pulled neatly back, and resolute posture conveyed quiet strength earned through decades of dedication to their ranch. They hesitated at the edge of the porch, caught between running to Elias and standing still in disbelief.
Elias?
His mother called, her voice trembling.
Is it really you? You look like a giant.
"It's me, Mom," he said, walking toward her. "I'm home." They embraced, his father joining a moment later, clapping Elias on the back. For a brief time, the chaos outside the ranch seemed a world away. But the peace didn't last. The distant thrum of rotor blades grew louder, reverberating through the air like a warning. Elias sighed, his expression hardening. "Archimedes, status report,"
Military helicopters approaching from the west.
the AI replied calmly.
Estimated time to contact, 10 minutes. Ground convoy detected on a southern approach, approximately 44 miles out. Estimated arrival, 58 minutes.
Elias stepped back from his parents, his tone resolute. "Get inside. I'll handle this." As his parents retreated into the house, Elias turned back toward his ship. The hull irised open, with a deep mechanical thrum, revealing a dimly lit interior, lined with arcane machinery and humming consoles. He stepped inside, and the ramp sealed shut behind him with a hiss of pressurized air. Deep within the craft's armory chamber, an exoskeletal frame stood suspended, waiting. The chamber lights flickered as biometric scanners confirmed his identity. "Initiate combat configuration," Elias ordered. Hydraulic limbs descended from the ceiling with precise, brutal grace. The armor was not worn. It was forged onto him. A spinal rig locked into place along his back with a jolt that stole his breath. Servo braces clamped onto his arms and legs, encasing muscle in a sheath of composite plating. Blackened adamantine plates slammed into place, layer by layer, with magnetic seals clunking into place like thunder. His chest plate sealed shut with a hiss of vacuum lock. Pneumatic locks compressed around his torso like the embrace of a titan. His vision narrowed as the helmet lowered over his head, hued, flaring to life. System diagnostics scrolling across his visor in eerie green. The suit was less armor and more exocasket, a relic of war and vengeance. When fully enclosed, he no longer moved as a man. He was something more. A dark sentinel reborn. Elias flexed his fingers, the suit responding seamlessly to his movements. He turned toward the approaching military convoy, his voice calm but firm. "Let's show them what they're dealing with." Chapter 3. A tense encounter. With a thunderous burst, Elias ignited the jump jets embedded in the heels and back of his battlesuit. The ground cracked beneath him as he launched skyward in a controlled arc, propulsion flares trailing like comets behind him. The suit's stabilizers adjusted mid-flight, guiding him with precision through the morning air and towards a gap in the dome that had automatically opened. He landed hard just outside the dome's shimmering perimeter, armored boots gouging into the earth with a satisfying crunch. Dust swirled around him as his thrusters powered down with a fading hiss. A low rumble echoed across the open field as a line of military transports came into view, flanked by armored vehicles and mobile command units. One of them, a PSYOP vehicle bristling with antennae and dish arrays, adjusted its position, its directional speakers locking onto Elias's location. A sharp crackle of feedback pierced the air before a commanding voice boomed from the speakers, amplified and cold.
Attention. This is Colonel James Hartford of the United States Army. You are in violation of restricted airspace and U.S. federal law. Stand down immediately.
The message hung in the air like a challenge, reverberating off the dome's edge. Elias remained still, the soft glow of his visor reflecting the translucent curve of the barrier as his systems quietly calibrated for what might come next. From beyond the dome's faint shimmer, Elias began to move. Each step was a heavy, deliberate thud against the earth, his armored frame sending small vibrations through the ground. Dust puffed beneath his boots as he advanced, the black battlesuit catching the light with an ominous gleam. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, a towering figure of engineered menace and control, more like a walking weapon than a man. Soldiers in Hartford's perimeter tightened their grips on their weapons, tension rising with each footfall. But Elias neither raised his arms nor activated any weapons. His helmet's external speakers crackled to life as he came to a stop several meters away from the colonel. "Colonel Hartford," he said, voice deep and modulated through the battlesuit systems. "My name is Elias Kane. I've no intention of escalating this situation, but I will not stand down. I'm here peacefully, visiting my family." His words were measured, composed, but the sheer presence of the armored figure made them impossible to ignore. Every sensor on the military line blinked in alert. Elias was not a threat in posture, but by design, he was a threat by nature. Hartford bristled, stepping forward as his men readied their weapons.
You've deployed unauthorized technology on U.S. soil, obstructed military operations, and are in possession of unknown materials. You are a threat, and I am authorized to take you into custody.
Elias sighed. "Colonel, with all due respect, you have no idea what you are dealing with. Your weapons are ineffective against my defenses, and attempting to seize my technology would be disastrous. I suggest we avoid unnecessary confrontation." Hartford's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. Even in the years Elias had been away, the same distrust and fear of the unknown persisted.
You're making a mistake, son. We don't take kindly to threats.
Elias's eyes hardened, though his tone remained polite. "This is not a threat. It's a fact. Your forces are outmatched. I've ensured no one has been harmed thus far, but if you continue to push, I will defend myself and my family. Please, Colonel, reconsider." The tension in the air was palpable as Hartford weighed his options. Behind him, soldiers shifted nervously, their weapons trained on Elias. Finally, the colonel spoke while scowling.
This isn't over.
Elias nodded, his tone softening. "Thank you for your restraint, Colonel. I hope this will be the beginning of understanding, not conflict." As the convoy began to withdraw, Elias took a deep breath and blew it out. Beneath the armored suit, his mind spun with relief and anxiety. He'd created this suit using designs gleaned from the Akashic record, a polymeric metallic blend that interfaced with his neural implants. But even advanced technology had limits, and he knew the U.S. military would be determined to find those limits. He returned to the house, stepping onto the porch where his parents waited, their faces lined with concern and 1,000 questions. On the horizon, helicopters still circled at a distance, keeping watch. Chapter 4. Family Ties and Universal Secrets. His mother was the first to speak.
Elias, where have you been? We thought you were dead. How could you just disappear like that? And how are you so huge?
Elias sat down on the porch steps, causing the wood to groan under his weight. Removing his helmet and placing it beside him, he looked up at his parents, his expression softening. "I owe you an explanation. You deserve to know everything." His father crossed his arms, his tone gruff, but tinged with relief.
Damn right, we do. Start talking.
"Start talking." Elias nodded, taking a deep breath. It all started with a faint, cryptic signal I picked up while tinkering with an old radio rig I had amplified in our old barn. I'd spent countless nights scanning the heavens, expecting nothing but a cosmic background noise or occasional satellite chatter. But then I stumbled on these strange, garbled pulses, unlike anything I'd heard before. When I analyzed them, I realized they were more than static. They formed a kind of alien binary code that, once partially deciphered, revealed a location near Jupiter and a set of schematics for a spacecraft. Some of it looked like advanced propulsion beyond anything we have here on Earth. I was obsessed. I poured every spare moment into building that ship, forging components from whatever scrap I could find, refining the designs sent by the signal. Once the prototype was finished, I took a leap of faith. I flew out to Jupiter, believing I'd discover more clues, and I did. Orbiting that planet was a derelict alien craft, ancient, damaged, but still intact enough to salvage data from. I found references in its database to star charts, quantum processes, and something far more valuable. A map pointing to the edge of our solar system, where an uncharted phenomenon allowed me to access what the data called the Akashic Record. He exhaled, glancing from his father to his mother. The record is a repository of universal knowledge, science, history, everything we've ever imagined and more. Once I unlocked those final coordinates and decrypted the instructions, I realized I couldn't just stay here. Not when I was on the threshold of discovering truths that might reshape humanity. His mother's eyes widened.
All knowledge? Elias, that sounds impossible.
It felt that way at first, Elias admitted. But once I tapped into it, everything changed. I learned how to build advanced ships, harness asteroid resources, and create artificial intelligence far beyond anything on Earth. I've spent the last few years in the asteroid belt, building an autonomous robotic workforce, mining, fabricating, innovating. But it's been lonely. He paused. I'm sorry I didn't reach out. I was consumed by what I'd learned, and I guess I was afraid you wouldn't understand, or that the government would track me down through you. His father let out a heavy sigh, sitting down beside him.
Well, they sure as hell found you now. But you're telling me you've been out there, saving the world, and you couldn't even send us a damn postcard?
Elias chuckled softly, tears hinting at the corners of his eyes. I didn't think you'd believe me. His mother gave him a stern look, though her eyes glistened with tears.
You're our son, Elias. We'd believe anything if it came from you.
He smiled, his heart feeling lighter than it had in years. I'm sorry for disappearing. I didn't mean to hurt you. It's just, once I fully accessed the record, I realized Earth was on the brink of a technological revolution that could save it or destroy it. Resources are dwindling. Climate crises loom. I wanted to be ready. I wanted to build something that could protect humanity from itself or from what's out there. His mother's hand trembled as she reached out to him.
What's out there? Are we in danger?
Elias looked away, recalling the knowledge he had gleaned from the record. There are other advanced civilizations, some benevolent, some not. Earth has been lucky to stay off their radar, but as we advance, we'll draw attention. He exhaled. I've prepared for it. I have a fleet of automated drones, advanced AI, and enough resources from the asteroid belt to ensure Earth's survival if we can unify our efforts. But I need time and cooperation. I can't do this alone anymore. His father patted him on the shoulder.
Well, you're here now. Just don't forget you've got a family to come back to, all right?
I won't, Elias promised. Not again. For a few minutes they sat in silence, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The cicadas chirped, and the wind rustled the grass in the fields. Elias felt a moment of rare peace, even as he knew the world beyond his ranch was about to come crashing in. Oh, and to answer your question, Mom, Elias murmured, almost to himself, I pushed the limits. He paused, the night air still around him, before continuing quietly. Genetic optimization, tailored enzymes, regenerative coding, epigenetic rewrites. Then came the augmentations, myofiber reinforcement, neural link mesh, adaptive skeletal lattice. I didn't just rebuild my body. I redefined what it means to inhabit one. His voice faded into the soft hum of wind and distant insects. There was no pride in his words, only the weight of consequence and quiet resolve. I had to become more, because what's coming won't spare the ordinary. With that, Elias rose and turned toward his ship, a silent silhouette beneath the stars, half man, half myth, and entirely changed. Chapter 5. The Pentagon's Response. Far from the ranch, the Pentagon briefing room hummed with tension. A video feed showed Colonel James Hartford addressing a cluster of top officials, military leaders, intelligence officers, government advisors. The gathered faces were grim, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Hartford's voice crackled through the speakers.
And that's when he made it clear. Any aggressive action would be met with overwhelming force. He's not bluffing. I recommend we proceed with extreme caution.
The video ended, and silence blanketed the room for a beat before voices erupted in debate. Caution? He's a threat to national security. We should take him out before he gets any stronger. We can't be rash. We don't even know the full extent of his capabilities. As the arguments escalated, Dr. Amelia Cartwright, a leading scientist specializing in advanced technologies, spoke up in a measured tone that cut through the chaos.
If what Colonel Hartford says about Elias Kane is true, we should attempt dialogue. His technology outclasses ours by a wide margin. A direct confrontation could end disastrously.
Senator Malcolm Reeves spat back.
So we just roll over? Let him do whatever he wants?
Cartwright maintained her composure.
Number. But we need more information. Suppose we meet with him. Offer a diplomatic approach to understanding his technology. If we can't contain him, perhaps we can cooperate with him.
Jonathan Creel, the director of the National Security Agency, leaned forward.
What do you suggest, Doctor?
A task force.
Cartwright replied.
Experts in diplomacy, science, and security. We reach out to Elias, try to see what he wants. If we can persuade him to share, or at least not threaten national interests, we can avoid escalation.
Another voice chimed in. Cold, measured, and dangerous. It belonged to Monica Voss, a CIA operative with a reputation for handling the government's dirtiest jobs.
And if he's not willing to cooperate?
She asked, her lips pressed into a thin line. Cartwright glanced at Monica warily, but it was the director who spoke.
Then we move to contingency plans.
Miss Voss, you'll be embedded with the team. If Elias proves unwilling, or if he poses an immediate threat, you will neutralize him.
Voss nodded, her expression unreadable.
Understood.
With that final statement, all eyes turned to the president, who had remained silent until now.
I want every detail we can get on how his technology functions.
President Stroud said firmly.
Miss Voss, give me photographs, everything we can capture.
He leaned forward, voice resolute.
Let's get it done.
Unbeknownst to anyone in the room, a tiny, camouflaged drone clung to the ceiling's ventilation grate, its sensors capturing every word. Archimedes, monitoring from orbit, cataloged the discussion in real time. The AI's subroutines flagged potential threats, particularly Monica Voss and the hawkish senator, who seemed bent on aggression. Back on the ranch, Elias stood alone on the front porch, gazing at the night sky. A faint beep in his neural implant indicated an incoming feed from Archimedes.
Commander, I have intercepted a Pentagon briefing. A task force is being assembled to approach you diplomatically, but they have a covert operative in place for potential elimination.
Elias closed his eyes, letting the breeze ruffle his hair. He had expected this, but the confirmation weighed on him all the same. After everything he had seen in the cosmic expanse, it was humbling and disappointing. That conflict on Earth remained so predictable. "Thank you, Archimedes," he said quietly. "Send me the full report. We'll prepare to greet our visitors." As he looked out over the dark fields and the distant lights of helicopters still lingering, Elias tightened his grip on the porch railing. His family slept inside, unaware of the looming confrontation, the quiet war of information and power that had already begun. He took in the stars overhead, recalling the cosmic wonders he had witnessed. Planets ringed with crystal spires, pulsars that pulsed with unimaginable energy, alien civilizations older than Earth itself. And yet this simple ranch, with its squeaky porch steps and worn wooden fences, was where he truly felt the pull of responsibility. "I've come too far," he murmured to himself. "This time, I won't run. I won't hide." The distant wail of sirens faded, replaced by the soft rustle of cattle in the fields. Elias lifted his gaze to the sky, feeling the tension of what was to come, knowing that any misstep could ignite a new kind of war. But as he stood there, the old ranch dog came padding up to him, sniffing uncertainly. Elias knelt, letting the dog lick his hand, a gentle reminder that some things never changed, no matter how many light years he traveled. He rose with renewed resolve. The Pentagon was planning to send an emissary and a killer. He would respond by showing them the next step in humanity's evolution. Whether Earth's leaders were ready or not, the time for hiding his discoveries was over.